Good evening. Welcome again to Women to Women. We have a very special lady on our show tonight that many of you are going to recognize, but we're going to keep her a secret, okay, her name, for just a moment. In the meantime, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Carpenter Nevada LLC, fine importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, international teas, and balsamic vinegar, as well as Vila Basque Deli and Cafe, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo. And now join me, please, as we welcome Starr Nixdorf, okay? Many of you know her. Starr, welcome so much to our show.
Thank you.
You know, when I first spoke with you, I said, normally I would like to talk with someone on the phone to get some facts, first of all, but you said, I'd rather send you my video. And wow, okay. I said, how are we going to feature a belly dancer among all the other things that we do? So before we even get into all the things that you're involved here in Northern Nevada and Carson City in particular, help us understand. You come, first of all, where did you get the name Starr?
My grandmother, and she from her father. The name Starr starts back many generations, but you go back far enough and there were no sons to carry it forward, and so it became a female name. And my grandma Starr, I have an aunt Starr, and I have about 18 cousins named Starr.
Oh my, okay. So we have enough people to keep that name going for a few generations more,
because it goes to the women now.
It goes to the women, okay.
Yes.
So help us understand, where were you born, Starr?
San Diego, California. I was born into the U.S. Navy. It's a very interesting lifestyle when you live in the U.S. Navy. You tend to go to a lot of port cities over the course of a lifetime. Or a childhood.
Okay, and that means a lot of moving around as a family, I would imagine.
Right, and we had a very unusual situation. I don't really know all the details because both my parents died very young in my book, before I really got a chance to find out all the whys and the wherefores. But when you're born in San Diego, you become a beach baby. And then we moved to New York, where it snowed. And I think I was a small popsicle in the middle of a storm once. They actually found me cuddled up or in my coat with my knees up against my chest, unconscious in the doorway of an office building. I was trying to walk home from school. And this is the 1960s, the time of the Black Panther parades.
Yes.
And a lot of
radical groups.
And my mother told me, do not go down in the subway. Whatever you do, do not go down in the subway.
She was smart.
These women found me. I think I was 7 years old, brought me upstairs. It had to be around Valentine's Day because they were feeding me chocolates, chocolate hearts, little chocolate candies and stuff. And the other word that you're told is never give anybody your name. So don't talk to strangers. They asked me my name, I wouldn't tell them. So finally they said, what's your dad's name?
Okay.
And then they called my father, his secretary came and rescued me. And New York was very bitter in my memory. It was so cold, but it's very pivotal to who I am today. My parents had some friends that owned an exotic instrument store, and they had sitars and tablas and horns that were attached to the outsides of cars, and
really unusual musical instruments. Yes.
Yeah, and they had a dance troupe that came from India and performed it's a storytelling dance. Okay. It's slightly religious, but more festival-esque.
Right.
And it's the story of the Lord Ganesh. And he came down and educated humankind and gave us the gift of education and knowledge. So Ganesh, these dancers were beautifully dressed, beautifully adorned, making these symbols for the rain falling from the sky or the fire coming up, and the way Ganesh comes down, and then they would symbol the elephant. They would make this movement that was Ganesh, the elephant.
Right.
You have to fast forward to like 16, 17 years old, and I had an opportunity to play a part in a small town theater group, and this costume came out that was so reminiscent of that 6-year-old, 7-year-old memory from New York City, Greenwich Village of all places.
Yes.
And I just went, I want to wear that.
Well, just in the few moments that you've been talking and going back in your memory, there has to be something of real feistiness, determination, because for a child to survive, and New York is very cold in the winters, and there are some times, I've lived in New York City for a long time, And that environment has so much moisture, water in the air, that when it's icy and it's snowy, it is frigid. So you were fortunate that these two angels, found you and took you in. Well, now, you said something else that I'd like to just go back on a moment. You said that in your mind, your parents died early.
Yes.
So you really didn't get a chance to have the full parenting experience as a young woman.
I had a parenting experience, but my father was 56 when he died.
Okay, that's relatively young.
My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer at 58.
Okay.
And she passed away at 61. So I was in my 30s. I think I was 29 when my father died, and 30-something when my mother died. And we had... well, your parents are really busy just putting the bread on the table and keeping you safe and getting you an education. You don't find out who they were
until many years later, when you're a mature adult yourself.
Right, and you come to visit them with your children in tow.
Yes,
and that's when you discover those things.
Yes, and I would agree with you, Starr, that there are very special moments that are waiting for all of us as our parents age. And they rear us, they grow us up. We bring our children, their grandchildren to them. And there is something that starts to click in their minds that, and I think it's kind of a sense of before I pass on, before I die, I want to share this legacy, this memory. Right. I want to share these thoughts that I had so that my daughter Starr or my daughter Carol can realize what I was thinking back then and where I was coming from. And maybe we didn't always agree. Maybe the decisions came hard to you, Starr, came hard to you, Carol. But can you figure out where I was at now that you're a parent? Yeah. And those are great conversations.
True. And I would say that when I hear my clients, I own a beauty salon, hair studio in Spear Me, and I hear my clients and they're like, I've got to go deal with my mom, or I got to go deal with my dad. They're people my age, and I look at them and I say, but would you do me one thing? Would you give them a hug and a kiss and just tell them it's from me? Because I would love to give my mom or my dad a hug, or a kiss, or just a squeeze. A hug is amazingly potent, and so in a way, I guess, and I'm fortunate because I haven't had to live with the I got to take care of.
Well, sometimes, Starr, that doesn't always come in all of us. My mother lived to be 99. And when she said, my home is your home, Carol. I'm so happy when you're here. And that was a place that I could go to where all the stress fell off. I knew that for the next 10 days or 2 weeks I was going to be with my mother. And it was just delightful to talk together. She was a historical reader. So when she put her history, her personal history together with what's happened today in my world, what a contrast she lived through, what a contrast she managed to live in. So I think that's a wonderful thing that you do for people who come into your hair salon, that you pass that new thought, new way of, new perception of looking at your parents. That's a great thing to do. Yeah. All right, so I want to know, did you have brothers and sisters?
I have one brother.
Is he as upfront as you are?
Worse.
Worse?
Yeah. Okay. I have a stepsister as well.
All right.
But the person I was raised with was my brother Jim.
All right.
He joined the U.S. Navy almost immediately upon his 18th birthday to get away from our father.
Okay. Who was a Navy man.
Who was a Navy man and forbade him to join the Navy.
Okay.
Said, you will not do what I did. He served 3 tours.
Wow.
And then he immigrated to Australia because he liked it there. Yeah.
So how often do you get to talk to each other or see one another?
Well, thanks to Facebook, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Have you been to Australia yet?
Yes, in 2004.
Okay. And that just adds to your repertoire of all the things that you do. Okay. You're going to have to clue us in.
Yes.
I'm new to Carson City.
Okay.
But everybody that I spoke to, I said, do you know Starr? They said, oh, of course. She's been around a long time. She's in everything. What all do you do, Starr?
Okay.
That really has meaning to you.
The first and foremost thing that I do is help my husband run Hair Studio in Spear Me. When we started, we bought Hair Studio in Spear Me in 1983.
Okay.
I was 21 years old. Mm-hmm. I had a 1.5-year-old baby. And no idea how to run a small business, just jumped in both feet. He's a hairdresser, and he's a phenomenal hairdresser, and
I understand that, yeah.
That's the blessing. I jokingly tell people that I take his money and I spend it. And that's not the truth at all.
No.
It takes someone to run the administration to actually get these things up and running and keep yourself running from 1983 to 2012.
Yes.
So 29 years of owning our business. However, he helped his parents build that business in the Silver City Mall in 1976.
Okay.
So if you add 1976 onto the end, that's a lot of years.
Yes.
And when we moved here in 1981, we came from Los Angeles, and LA was fast and furious, and Carson City was not. So I had an amazing amount of culture shock when I arrived in Carson City.
Yes.
And I got involved in the Chamber of Commerce right out of the gate. I was pregnant with my second baby while I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and they jokingly called me Cyndi Lauper because my hair was bright pink, and I often styled it in a mohawk, straight up. So
you are really bold. Okay, you're outspoken in
we're
so
talking
many ways.
The 80s.
Yes.
So the 80s, this is the era of the big hair. But what we did that was really unique is we were constantly looking for the cutting edge, and we would bring it to Carson City, which was approximately 5 to 10 years behind this curve. We brought an imaging computer to Carson City. We would set it up at the Nevada Appeal Christmas Fair in the gymnasium at the community center, and when you walked in, there would be these enormous television screens, and you'd be seeing someone having their hair modified on a computer. And in 1984, this was unheard of.
Unheard of, you're
unheard
right.
of.
Yes.
And we try to be aware of technology, trends, haute couture. Sometimes couture is like not going to work in Carson City, and you have to know what to let go.
Yes.
And so if we fast forward, last year we went to the World Body Painting Festival in Portschach, Austria. And World Body Painting Festival is enormous, but the amount of clothing those models are wearing is minuscule. So you can't really bring that back to Carson City too easily.
And I think what you're also saying is European culture is far different than North American culture.
Oh, absolutely.
And even the Canadians would say, we're even bolder than you U.S. people, okay? We're more out there on the cutting edge than you are. So our roots are different, even though, and our histories are different.
Sure.
And sometimes,
have you ever done plant propagation?
No, I haven't.
So they sometimes take a tree.
Right.
For example, a walnut tree. And one kind of walnut tree is really good at having a good root system. And another kind of walnut tree makes a bountiful amount of nuts.
Right.
And so they splice together the bottom of one tree that has an amazing root system that picks up lots of water, and they drop the top part of another tree that does the great fruit on top of that. And then they have this drought-resistant, fantastic production walnut tree. And if you go over to California, where I spent a lot of my childhood, you'll see trees that are like brown up to here and then white from a point and going up. And America is like one of those trees.
Yes.
We have a foundation that's set, but we keep dropping new kinds of thoughts to the top of it all.
Yes.
And I think we're constantly evolving as a nation, and yet there's still that Protestant root that's down at the bottom that got on the Mayflower, which my family did. They were on the Mayflower, came over. My Aunt Barbara has all the records, so I can say I'm a Mayflower girl.
Yes, and that's special, especially on the East Coast.
In Connecticut, where my family came from originally, Connecticut. So I guess what we do, because we're a hair salon and a body piercing studio, and we have the makeup, is that we're bringing some of that European sensibility, but we're toning it to what is applicable here in Carson City.
And I want to come back to that in the second half.
Yeah.
I apologize for cutting a little bit short, but you have some great ideas, and I want to have time to just explore them with you, okay? So we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to the second half of Women to Women. We're here with Starr Nixdorf, a very talented and unique lady. And we're going to come right back to Starr in a moment. But if you'd like to join us on Facebook, we have a new page. It's facebook.com/women-to-women-NV. So join us anytime and talk to us anytime there. Now, back to Starr. Starr, I'm just going to let you have fun with this second half, because there's a lot of involvement. You are a lady of endurance. You are a lady of strength. As you were sharing during the cut in the program, you have been in so many grade schools, 2 different junior highs, 2 different high schools, and you haven't allowed that sometimes very negative and resistant emotion of having to move on to another spot. It was part of the military life. Mm-hmm. And you've turned those leave takings into opportunities to meet new people.
And that's very, very, very this is an important point to make.
Okay.
Because after many, many years in being in business, after many, many years in entrepreneurial success, one of the key things to being successful is actually making friends.
Yes. Yes.
So if you are brand new to a city, you just show up in Carson City, or you just show up in Reno or Sparks or Incline Village, the first thing you have to do is find like-minded individuals to cooperate with. And it may be people that are in your similar industry, or it could just be people that are trying to make a go of being in business. And one of my passions is a small organization that started in 2008 called Women Entrepreneurs of the World. And when We of the World began, I thought, cool, this is going to be a group who will think like I think and feel like I feel. And this will be better than... I told you I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce starting in the 1980s, and I love the Chamber of Commerce. Yes. It is a great organization. However, it isn't women, and it isn't necessarily entrepreneurial. At times, you're dealing with people from all walks of life. I've met really great contacts for workers' compensation insurance. I was spending a couple $1,000s a year for workers' compensation insurance with SIIS, which was the State Industrial Insurance System. It was run by the state of Nevada and was then transitioned over into being a workers' comp insurance company independent of the state of Nevada. But the premiums were astronomical. And at a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, meeting, mixer thing, I met this woman from the NINSIG, the Nevada self-insured group. It was a retail organization, and they saved me 50% on my workers' compensation insurance. So definitely being a member of the Chamber of Commerce is helpful.
Yes.
But Women Entrepreneurs of the World was talking about how do you balance family and work and self. I loved this one particular speaker because she realized at some point, wrote a book about it, that there is no balance. It does not balance. There are priorities, and your family comes first, and then your work. And what comes before your family is you, and what becomes before you is God. And so her statement was, you don't balance. It does not balance. It's a priority system, not a balance system.
And let me just cut in here for a second. And probably that's where so much of our stress as women and as men, but particularly women, who feel this tremendous sense of responsibility on their shoulders to be everyone and everything for everybody.
Correct. And we're told this from a very young age, that we're supposed to be the princess in the party dress, and ladylike, and you pretty much can't get anything done in a party dress. You'll get dirty. You'll get it dirty, and this is, and so you can't roll up your sleeves and dig in.
Right. I think what you're saying is through this special organization of entrepreneurial women, you help them realize that there are going to be some days or some weeks or some portion of time where the business is going to dominate. Then we're going to go, but we're not forgetting the family. We're going to talk these things over, work them through, make decisions. But there are going to be moments in time when things just kind of keep bubbling up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so the unique aspect that We of the World has is that it tries to create a space in which women can share those ideas, commiserate, discover what keeps the spark alive, that we all need to have alive to continue pushing the rock up the hill.
Yes.
And so if you want to find out about more about We of the World, it's on the web at weoftheworld.com. Weoftheworld.com. Women entrepreneurs. And I'll let you know, there are men in Women Entrepreneurs of the World. We started off as just a bunch of girls that were all meeting and having this lovely little thing. And then some men came and they said, hey, can we come in? And we all looked at each other and went, well, if we don't let them in, aren't we being hypocritical? That they won't let us into the boys' club, we have to be able to let them into the women's club.
Yes.
So we do have men who are a part of our organization.
Wonderful.
And it's a great dynamic. It adds even more to it. And our meetings are the second Thursday of every month at Sassafras Restaurant on North Carson Street. And
what time do they meet?
11:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And then we have some mixers that happen around town. The most recent one was at Dream Dinners. Because it's such a baby organization, it started in 2004, it's still going through a bit of the pupating stage.
Which is normal. Which is normal.
We're not quite a butterfly.
No. I think any organization that has validity, that has strength of purpose behind it and strength of character behind it, it has to find its way. And in order for it to be strong and viable in the future, you've got to go through these challenges and these problems and solve them, work them out together, because that's what's going to make the organization worthwhile.
And how do we set ourselves apart? How does We of the World set itself apart from BNI?
Good question.
From Chamber of Commerce, from all of these different organizations. It's about creating relationships, not necessarily counting up slips of pieces of paper that say this is what I did. And so because of those relationships you're building with women of like mind, or men, business owners, that's really the benefit. And the dues are really reasonable. You're spending under $100 a year for the dues.
Yes.
The luncheons are only once a month. You don't have to show up every week. There's no penalty if you fail to show up. You just have me cry. No, I mean, and so let's just say, for example, I was elected the director of the Carson City Committee in April of this year. And so I have a board of directors that are helping me get that luncheon advertised and members notified and all that kind of thing. So it's a group it's a group of volunteers that are making that happen. So what the Women Entrepreneurs of the World does is it also focuses on education. And through raffles and donations, they provide scholarship money for young women that are going to college right now up at WNC or possibly at one of the other community colleges in the area. And that's, in 4 years, they've been able to give away, 8, 9, I believe 12 scholarships.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And
what a help.
That's kind of like where I'm at, because the other thing that I do, with the help of my husband and Hair Studio and Spear Me and June Joplin at Comma Coffee.
Who has been on this program, by the way. Yeah, she's great.
As I created a platform for dancers. And it's called the World Dance Open Floor Night. It's free. It's family friendly. It happens on the third Friday of every month at Comma Coffee.
Okay.
And again, I wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for my husband supporting me. The women that come and perform, I call them my dazzling dancers.
Okay.
And I have an awesome audience.
Yes.
And fantastic sponsors like Bridger Mountain Trading Boutique, Bridger Mountain Boutique. They're in the Carson Mall. And for 8 years, Colleen has been supporting me with raffle prizes. And what we do at the World Dance Open Floor Night is a little unique because you've noticed I have a kind of eclectic taste.
Yes, very much so.
So we raise money every month for the Children's Museum 1 month, the Brewery Arts Center Backstage Kids another month, or for Safe Haven Dog Kennel and the Carson Tahoe SPCA. That was just last month. This month we're raising money for Strings in the Schools. This is year number 6, raising money for the Carson City Symphony's Strings in the Schools program. Wonderful. And in October, we'll be raising money for the Carson Advocates for Cancer Care for the 7th year in a row. And so every month, you might say if it got on my radar, then that becomes the focus of that month's World Dance Open Floor Night. And I'm a little bit creative with it, kind of freeform, because I have no idea who's coming. You show up, 7:30, you sign up,
right?
Show starts at 8, and that's when I find out who's performing and what we're doing.
That's high risk sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. Oh,
I just have to keep telling them it's G-rated. Whatever you're doing, it's G-rated.
G-rated. Okay.
And
I love bottom line there. And you know, again, I keep as I'm listening to you, I keep bringing back into focus that Starr can do this because she's had so much change growing up in her lifetime. That change is not a threat. It's an opportunity.
Sure.
Okay? Let's see what we can do with changing from this idea to this idea. How can we service our community in a positive way by letting more people come into this organization, such as men? Men and women are good sounding boards off of each other, and you begin to respect how the differences begin to, they think differently than we do as women, and sometimes their process for solving a problem is completely different than what we would do. But without the two, you probably wouldn't have as much success as you've had.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to this guy named Perry Nixdorf. And in 1983, when we bought that beauty salon, he was jumping with faith that there was going to be a ledge on the opposite side of that chasm. And in 1983, he took that leap, and we've been able, because he's an entrepreneur at heart, we've been able to play this against each other. I have an idea, he has an idea, back and forth and back and forth. But throughout 31 years of marriage,
that's great.
The glue is communication.
Yes. And every relationship is communication. And isn't it, it is so frustrating and almost shocking when you discover that you think you've known a person for a long time and you're not on the same page at all.
Sure.
You're not communicating. And then you have to figure out, what do we do with this friendship or this relationship? Do we get it back on track? Is it possible? Or do we just have to go our separate ways? Right. And to hear a woman like yourself, Starr, who has children, who has a wonderful husband, and you've both put your faith in the fact that you are good partners in business and you're good partners in a marriage, and you're apparently very good parenting partners as well.
So far, so good.
Where do the kids fit in?
Well, in 1983, when we bought the salon, I was pregnant. Let's see, no, I had...
We don't have too much time left. So
I had one, and then I rapidly got pregnant with the second baby. So while we're in business, just getting on our feet, I'm raising 2 little kids, and I went to WNC at the same time. So tools that you can use, pick a class, just one. I tried to do 3 classes the very first semester, impossible.
Yes.
Pick a class, do that one class. Go up to WNC, talk to their guidance counselors. Go to the BRIC, the Business Resource and Innovation Center here in Carson City. They have a library facility there. Do some research on what you're interested in. And find out.
Go ahead.
We'll find out what you get paid to do that job.
Yes.
Because just following your passion may not make the rent.
That's correct. And I'd like to leave it right there, because your advice is sound advice for anyone thinking about business or about a personal pursuit of some sort. So we thank you so much for being with us. I didn't get to the belly dancing question.
Well, you'll have to come to the World Dance Open Floor Night in October for the Tickled Pink show.
That is the clue. I'll be there. I will be there. I'm going to put it on my calendar. Until we see you again next week, have a great evening. Stay well, and we'll be back with a very special lady again next week. Thank you so much.